I did send a note to everyone via chat, but just so everyone knows, this is being recorded and it will be available for public consumption on the City of New Orleans website. And I've also shared the link to the specific project page for the London Avenue Canal Public Art Placemaking project page. So feel free to check that out when you get a chance. My name is Natalie Manning. I am the outreach specialist for the Gentilly Resilience District portfolio of projects. And I will be overseeing the community engagement and outreach for this project, as well as the rest of the projects in the portfolio. So any questions that you have that relate to the entire district, or any questions that I can ask related to this project, feel free to reach out to me. So I'll turn it over now to Sarah to get us started.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. I am the Arts Council Program Director, and this is the second event in our Meet the Artist online series. So with the Gentilly Resilience District work, we have a youth component in addition to a cohort of professional artists who are part of our Civic Arts Fellowship. So the first part of today's event is going to be dedicated to hearing from our students who are a part of our Young Artists Movement program. We have a group of students from the NET Gentilly, which is a high school in Gentilly, who have been working with us alongside Carl Joe Williams as our lead artist. And that group of NET students with some of our YAM leaders have been working on two really beautiful sculpture proposals. They're a little bit different from the other artists that are presenting in our Meet the Artist series, because they have actually been working on their designs since mid-January. So they're a little bit further along in their proposals. And so they're going to be sharing where they are now with their designs and asking for some specific input with regard to their sculpture proposals. After we have our presentation from the YAM group, we are going to rewatch one of our Meet the Artists from yesterday, Hannah and John, who are guinea pigs for all of this. And since we had a little bit of technical difficulty with screening their video yesterday, we're going to have them join for the last 20 minutes of the session today. So with that, I would love to hand it over to Shanti Broom, who has been working with the Young Artist Movement over the past few years. And she's going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about YAM, and then the students will share their proposals.
Thanks, Sarah. So the Young Artist Movement was piloted, well, how is everybody? I'm Shanti, as Sarah just introduced. The Young Artist Movement was piloted 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, to put art in the greater New Orleans area. Just a collection of experienced artists and educators to inform and provide, incorporate community engagement in like the public art that we do. And just as it says here, we create murals, sculptures, digital media projects, and more. We speak about important civic issues and beautify our city. So yeah, together with Sly, Sarah, some others along the way, we really, as you're a part of one process with us, you're with us for the ride. So with Gabby, it's been with us for a couple of years. We have a few of our projects up here are downtown across the street from Rouse's on Barone, we did with B Mike. So our process runs a little like we work together with a lead artist who has the skill and has the knowledge as a professional artist already to help us with designs and ideas to make it more uniform and polished to put up. So we've worked with Courtney, hey Courtney, with Luna Fett.
Hey Shanti.
How's it going? So that was cool. That was digital mapping. What was it? Was that what it was called?
Yeah, projection mapping.
Projection mapping to show a couple-minute video at Luna Fett to the Light Festival. So that was cool. So we have here the Chinese Exclusion Act project that we did in the summer of 2018, I want to say, with I.O. Scott. So that was an intensive week-long process that we learned everything we could about the Chinese Exclusion Act and got together with some students from Xavier, Dillard, just like local artists to put this together. It was 4 separate canvases that we put together in about a day. And then over the next day, I worked with some of the artists to put it together and make it look as one cohesive piece. And I'm gonna hand it over to Skinny now. He is, oh, I'm sorry, is he here? To introduce the net.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
How
Thanks,
y'all
man.
doing? My name is Hey, hey Charlie. My name is Evelyn, and I'll be introducing the net. The net.
Skinny, can you speak up a little bit into your phone?
Like, come on, you. That is kind of cool. It's what changes in school. What you do now. Like, they got so many opportunities that make you see and do a lot of different things. They can't hear me. I feel like I can't hear me. No, they can't. Let me try it on my phone because this.
Are you still there?
Yeah, but I'm trying to see if y'all can hear me because I feel like y'all cannot hear me.
I can hear you much better. Yeah. We couldn't hear
You're
you.
going in and out, huh?
Yeah.
I feel you that, man. That's how I try to do it on my phone, but difficulties.
Now that we can hear you, can you just briefly say again about the net? Thank you.
Okay. Then the net is it's an eternity school, but it's just not any type of eternity school. It's like what you can do there that make it, where you're going. Like we have a lot of interns that we can, they got a lot of interns that you can do that you can figure out. Like I went to the school not knowing what I wanted to be, when I get out of school and stuff. I did not know what I want to be until I did the interns and made me realize what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. Then they got teachers that are willing to work with you through thick and thin. You got to put that time and that effort, for yourself for them to work with you. Y'all can hear me?
Yes, thank you so much.
If you can hear me, just taking a check. So I can so that they can.
Okay. Thank you, Skinny. We're gonna move on and talk a little bit
On to Carl.
Here we have a picture of not our complete group, but the closest picture of our whole group that we wanted to share with you all when we visited the levee breach site. This, our lead artist hasn't been able to get on the call, but
Wait, I think I see you now. Carl, are you there?
He did join.
okay, great. Great. So Carl, you're up to share briefly about your work, and then we'll talk about our video and our designs.
Carl, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna be quick. I'm from New Orleans. I went to NOCA. I went to Warren Easton. I studied under John Scott um, at a pretty early age, and it was significant for me. It put me on the path that I'm on. Um, so yeah, I started becoming very interested in a lot of different types of work, uh, paintings and sculptures, but I was in video and all manner of creative things, and interested in combining those with my work. Um, that piece right that you're looking at was one of the pieces that I did back in 2002, Atlanta Airport. It was a mural inside the airport, and it has a lot of three-dimensional elements that you can't really see from that image. But it was me trying to mirror some of the images that was in the airport to try to speak to more of speak to the mundane through a spiritual lens, so to speak. You go to the next one. That was a piece where I combined the technology with my painting. I also do music, and that was a piece called Prayers for JoJo. So it was really a personal work. It was an old television with a found radio on top, and I kind of combined it all together and had music coming from both top and bottom, and created music to go along with it. You could go to the next one. This is a piece that I did back in the 2000. I think it was 2008. No, 2011. It's on Veterans Boulevard. It's called Sculptural Trees, and I did it during the time when they were doing a lot of redevelopment and construction in the area, and I was interested in creating something in that area that were trees, but I was interested in trees and kind of connecting to ancestors. I thought it was a beautiful symbol to really explore some of the sacred geometry ideas that I was thinking about, and also just really kind of exploring and pushing it. The interesting thing is a lot of people don't even see them as trees, but that works fine for me. But just really trying to figure out color palettes and thinking about all of these connections to trees and ancestors and my own spiritual growth. So you can go to the next slide. This is a piece I did back in 2000 and I want to say 2003. It was one of the first kind of sculptural murals that I did, and I worked with the community in Atlanta, Georgia, Washington Park neighborhood on several meetings and discussing the history of their community and how the designs that I was coming up with would impact the neighborhood, and just trying to make sure that everybody felt good about the design. You know, ultimately, it wound up being about the tennis greats, Black tennis stars, and Arthur Ashe. He had been part of that legacy in that neighborhood because he had come there and done some work with the community in the 60s. So that piece worked pretty close with the community, and it was done on aluminum, painted aluminum. So that is a little bit about my work. I guess I can talk some more.
I think Carl just we do want to get to the video. I think what's really helpful about seeing Carl's previous work is that when you see the sculpture designs in a moment, you'll be able to see the influence of his past work and style in his collaboration with the group at YAM and the Net. And so we want to show you those examples to help kind of contextualize where these designs are headed once they're actually installed.
Yes, thank you, Carl and Karen. So we'll watch, now we'll watch a video, our video created by Sly.
Thank you, Sly. Shout out to you.
It's gonna take me a second to get the right.
I'm Carl Joe Williams. I'm a lead artist.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Tolliver, otherwise known as Gabby.
Hi, I'm Erin Bernard.
You don't see it.
The Net Gentili.
Erin, I think you need to share your screen still.
Room, and I've been an artist with Yam for a few years.
I'm Aspen and I'm a
I don't see it.
Sorry. Okay. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm Carl Joe Williams. I'm a lead artist.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Tolliver, otherwise known as Gabby.
Hi, I'm Erin Bernard. I'm an arts educator at the Net Gentili High School.
Hello, my name is Shanti Broom, and I've been an artist with Yam for a few years.
I'm Aspen and I'm a youth artist movement intern from the Net Gentili.
My name is Devel and I'm an intern from the Net.
Hi, my name is Elijah Turk. I am a Yam intern at the Net.
I just love it. It's fun for me and it makes me feel unique.
A lot of things, like everybody you look at is just art.
I was finding a stress reliever and I thought that art would be really fun to do. And what inspires me to continue making art is the passion that I've grown for it and the community that I've built rooted in art.
Initially, to gain an insight into the art world.
To continue learning about public art and how it's made, why it's made, and how it helps the community.
To express myself as a New Orleans artist.
I joined YAM because I love collaborating with young artists and supporting them in their work.
Find more ways I can draw and see the world for itself.
Some major themes that we discussed during the development of this project are water, water management, resilience, and community. Our goal as a team is to create a sculpture that informs the community on water management and healthy ways to live side by side with our natural environment. We have also partnered with community members in various organizations to share personal testimonies from Gentili residents. Gentili was one of the most affected areas after Hurricane Katrina and has grappled with how to coexist with nearby water.
We've been working and having some conversations and research with students at the Net High School.
Our process is to research, get community input, design development, and placement design at our desired site or sites. We started by learning and researching where the art is/was going to go, and then researching the topic at hand, water management and sustainability. From there, we did some self-reflection about our work, and then got some community input about what they think we should put in the work.
All of this artwork that we're creating is going to culminate into a piece of public work that really is designed to spark more conversations about water management, about sustainable water practices, and how we can work together to create a better, healthier future for our community.
All right, so that's our overview video, and we also just wanted to go dig in a little more to the designs with you all, and if you have questions, to let us know. So I'm gonna share my screen again, and we'll look deeper at the proposals. And maybe Sarah, if you have a chance to like read out some of the, if chat questions come up, we can try to address those.
Yes.
Great.
So lots of applause about the video and the amazing soundtrack that went along with it. Nice work, y'all.
All right, so Carl and Gabby are going to talk a little bit more about the specific designs, and if you guys have questions, feel free to throw them out there.
And Carl and Gabby, we just have about 5 minutes for this so that we can have 5 minutes to hear comments and feedback before we move on to Hannah and John. So just keep an eye on the time as you talk, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
So the first site that we were looking at was the Rain Garden on Fillmore and Willowdale. This area is really a place in the city that's focused on water management and how we could properly live with water. As we all know, we have an issue with flooding, and this rain garden kind of helps manage that water in that area. Originally, our design was going to be an 8-foot by 4-foot or 6-foot, I believe, wall. This was the original design. When we sent this proposal over to Nora, there were concerns over the size of it, so we had to break it down into 4 separate sculptures that are going to go into the rain garden itself. They're all 2 feet by 8 feet, and they're 6 feet wide. These are going to be spread out throughout the rain garden. We had particular areas that we could place the sculptures and where we couldn't, so we didn't disturb the actual function of the rain garden. So these are the spots that we decided would be best for our pieces to be seen by the public and then bring more people in and engage the space. So Carl, if you have anything else you'd like to add.
I'm going to talk a little bit about, I guess the conceptual framework was a mural initially. So just kept thinking about starting from that standpoint. And ultimately we were thinking about, well, at least I started thinking about each site with its own different kind of intention. And in the rain garden, really was thinking more of a quilt, and was thinking about a quilt in terms of community history and family, and using the quilt as a visual symbol for connectedness and thinking about planning for generations to come. The rain garden, the Levy Bridge, I was thinking more as a commemorative. Yeah, so I was thinking more of it as a commemorative site for the neighborhood, for Hurricane Katrina, and a space where residents can actually have a voice in the work. And so Gabby, you could talk a little bit about mining that information.
Okay. Before we jump to that one, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but one aspect of the Nora Rain Garden sculpture is the quilt pattern. I think that's a really beautiful representation of the idea of, you know, community and family. And so the different designs that are woven together in the Nora Rain Garden sculpture are really intended to represent that quilt pattern.
Yeah, yeah.
This is some process work of how we got some of the designs. We all kind of, we're choosing different designs in the beginning, and this picture here is showing the process of picking the color palettes. These are still some things that we're open for community input on, but overall the designs are pretty much secure. Going on to the Levy Breach site, we were focused on
telling the stories of the community members. This is a site that is very informative, and we wanted to add a little more information without overwhelming the space. So we decided to have concentric circles, and within the circles, we were going to take community members' input, their own testimonies, some personal quotes, and put those into the circles to be able to tell more personalized stories, because at the site we noticed it was very informative and didn't give much of a say from the actual community. And these are some progress shots of the design process for that site. We really focused on what resilience meant to us as a group, and this was the first brainstorm map that we had. So every single word is what we all thought that resilience meant or what it could mean. I'm going to pass it over to Carl if you have anything else to add.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit concentric circles. I mean, I've used it a lot in my work, but in this case, I was thinking about it more specifically as a symbol for water, but more calming water. And a lot of times there's a color in the work, but I thought it would be nice to keep a nice patina on the work. You know, it became it's like an allegory for the natural process in nature. So it kind of speaks to more being more in harmony with nature. So yeah, that was one thing I wanted to say. But it's really important that the stories are going to be the weight of that piece. And I think it's going to be a powerful work. But we're still collecting that. So.
So I guess we can open the floor now to any questions or comments.
Have you guys been getting inputs from the survey that has been shared out?
We've only gotten one response so far, so we definitely want to try and keep pushing that out along with the other artist videos and surveys. Sandy, would love to hear from you if you have thoughts too about, you know, who to reach out to get more input on about the images and stories and text that we want to etch onto the surface. And if anyone on the call has ideas about, you know, folks we should reach out to in the community, residents who might be willing to contribute, we'd love to do some individual outreach to them.
Well, I'm very glad you brought that up. I actually have lists of names of the residents who, and very sadly, after they flooded, they had to move to Texas or Florida or Baton Rouge. But I have their names and phone numbers, and you could still reach out to them, you know, the old-fashioned way over the phone. I'm happy to supply that. It is hard to find neighbors still around. 15 years later, it's a challenge, but it can be done. And I'm so glad that you're doing that, because one of the things that I'm proudest about with both of these properties, with the Flooded House Museum as well, is that the entire project was always done with the buy-in and the support of the neighborhood, everything. And I'm happy to see that continue with these outreach for input. So I love that. And I just one comment on the beauty of the art piece is I find that the circles and the flowing is so fitting for the exhibit, because the exhibit is very linear. You've got the linear walkway, you've got the linear hallway with the linear exhibits, you've got the linear flood wall, you got the linear trees. And I never realized how linear this exhibit was until the art came in to smooth out these sharp lines with this softness. So anyway, that's just my comment, my personal comment on the beauty of the art piece, but it's also a lot more than something pretty, it's also meaningful. So I've said enough. Thank you for inviting my input.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Before we move on to the next video, do we have any other questions or comments?
I know one of the things that we were still kind of interested in hearing from people about is the color palette for the rain garden piece. So if y'all have ideas about that you could send our way, or you can type them in the chat, we'd love to know what kind of colors you envision for that rain garden piece.
Yeah, that would be great if you all have thoughts that you could throw in the chat box. That would be super helpful. And then thank you so much, Mr. Bechet, for the suggestions about outreach. All right.
Thanks.
Any last? Yeah, thank you all so much. And thank you so much to the YAM group for a really beautiful presentation. It was so great to see the process shots and to see such talented and multidisciplinary artists showcased through that video.
Thank you.
So we will transition now into Hannah Shalou and John Kleinschmidt's piece again. Erin Bernard, can I recruit you to screen their video again? What?
Hi, my name is Hannah Shalou. I'm a visual artist from New Orleans.
My name is John Kleinschmidt. I'm an artist and architect.
I work in drawing and sculpture and installation.
And I work in, well, primarily in sketchbooks. I carry my studio with me.
I make artwork that explores what it means to live in an age of global warming, and specifically what that means for those of us in southern Louisiana.
I think my work is driven by an obsession and a curiosity with the hidden stories of places. Why is that street crooked like that? Or why is that mound there? You know, why is this sinking over here?
I also use a lot of living plants in my work. Found materials, people might call it trash, which is just, for me, another way of thinking about renewable resources.
Discovering these stories hidden in the landscape is a way for us to consider new ways to approach the challenges that we all are going to face: climate change, rising sea levels.
When Chantilly Resilience District call came out, it seemed like natural for us to sort of take the ideas we were already thinking about and adapt it to this neighborhood. Growing up here, before Katrina, I had so little of an understanding of water in the city, and you really don't see water besides Bayou St. John.
In a city that's so close to water in its kind of fortunes and history as New Orleans, when that water is hidden behind giant concrete walls or buried underground, well, you lose that clue to answer that question: where are you?
We thought about the idea of sort of using the language of pipes and this hidden infrastructure and sort of making that visible.
These are the shapes that make the city work. They're also why the city's sinking. They're like racetracks for water to go directly to the pumping station, get it pumped out as quickly as possible. A greener water city for New Orleans means slowing the water down.
This is a drawing where we're sort of taking a cross-section of a pipe, the kind of pipe that might be underground, and then like, what if that's a pathway? So you're walking through it. We're imagining that you're walking sort of along that neutral ground. You're walking maybe under structures or over structures, or structures are kind of, maybe a pipe is sideways, more like a column, and there's plants growing out of it. Experiencing this drainage that we never see, like this infrastructure that is like why our city is possible and like why Gentilly is possible. But then also the heights of these different structures are corresponding to different heights that tell you where you are. Like wanting to reanimate these pipes, incorporating living plants so that they would not be static and not just be like these pieces of concrete, but over time might get grown over by vines or different ferns or sort of low maintenance, drought tolerant, like Louisiana plants. This project has a relationship with S&WB, so maybe they can give us some of these pipes, but maybe we would also kind of cast some of these shapes ourselves and cast textures of maybe like the sort of plastic waste that gets clogged there, and then that would be like the texture of the pipe, and then also become kind of like the teeth where plants can get a hold and grow over. With the site of the neutral ground, we really liked that space, wanting our work to be in conversation with the pumping station, like thinking about it as an education tool and like wanting to show all the pipes and having access to like where you are in the city versus like different heights of the river and the lake and where it might be after 3 feet of sea level rise, but also like what is the pumping station doing, and like so our work being in conversation with that.
I mean, these shapes are incredible. Just the taxonomy, the index, this kind of family of pipes is so suggestive. You know, why are they that shape? We don't know. And the history of different materials for pipes in New Orleans is fascinating. Cypress, you know, logs and terracotta and
cast iron, and now increasingly plastic.
We're excited by the Prentice neutral ground, but these are starting to be very playful compositions, and they could translate to the playground as well. I think maybe that's a question where we'd like to open up to others, is where could this work? We'd like to know more about how is that space used. I think that would be a good discussion. We're also curious, do people know this? Do people know that the highest high of the Mississippi River is 28 feet above the ground in this part of Gentilly? The juxtaposition of live oak trees above a buried concrete culvert carrying drainage water to a pumping station it's amazing. I mean, tree roots in a way are a system of conveying water. We're talking about vascular systems, and our drainage system ought to be more like the roots of a tree that distribute water more evenly, and it doesn't all just get channeled to a pumping station. So I think that's a perfect encapsulation of where the city must go. You know, straight lines are not the answer. It's going to be a squiggle. You know, we need to take time for the water to get to where it's going, to take energy away from it, to slow it down.
All right, thank you, Erin. So we have a few people on the call, and we'd love to hear reactions. Yesterday, our discussion got cut a little bit short, as I mentioned, so I wanted to have the opportunity, and since some of the AM crew is also on this call, as well as Sandy and others, we'd love to hear from you all, you know, your reactions about what you enjoy about this proposal, what other considerations Hannah and John might have, further ideas you have about, you know, the shapes and interactions that they're proposing with this. So I'll open it up to anyone who wants to hop in. Gabby, actually, you had a great point that you just put in the chat. Can you speak about that a little bit? I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, for the structure, how I was kind of envisioning it, it's like, you know how they create the maze at like Chuck E. Cheese and things like that? If you could make like use the pipes to create a structure similar to that and allow the like vines and whatever greenery you guys are thinking about to grow over it, that could be really cool at the parks, because then it could be interactive and a space for the visitors to use, while also not necessarily like bombarding the natural environment with what we might want. It could be something where it could benefit both parties.
That's a great suggestion. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah.
I know that that's one of the big questions that Hannah and John brought up, which is just what's sort of the best location for this. I think we have all been really inspired by the neutral ground outside of the pump station, just in speaking to our relationship to that pump station and trying to really illuminate what that station does. But there's also a really strong kind of interaction component to this, which, you know, might make it better suited to one of the park areas. So just curious other people's thoughts about location for this as Hannah and John kind of think through it.
Cameron, did you?
Yeah, I didn't know the process of jumping in. I didn't want to just jump in, so I raised my hand like I was in second grade. Two things jumped out at me right away. I work for Sewage and Water Board. I'm a landscape architect, and I work in environmental affairs. And I'm a very strong proponent, obviously, of green infrastructure. That's one of the main areas that I'm constantly championing. Most recently, Sewage and Water Board we had the notice of intent go out for a project where we're going to spend $376,000 at the lot next to Bayou St. John. That's in between Orleans Avenue, and it fronts Bayou St. John, and then it goes to the other side where the post office is, if you guys are familiar with that lot. So the good news is that we've been able to work through COVID and actually get a notice of intent out. And Dana Brown and Associates is the landscape architect firm that was that's going to be awarded after this process. But why am I saying this is the other thing that stuck out for me, one, the site, what you guys are doing, but one thing that was amazing is you spoke of where the water would be in the neighborhood. To me, that would be powerful to put in such a large site art that maybe depicts, because a lot of people probably will be coming to this space. It's really large. And the main goal about the space is to be used as a green infrastructure demonstration project where we had a minimum of 5 GI practices be part of the design, so people can come there and actually learn about 5 different GI practices and how they could be used in the environment to slow water down. And we didn't really think through the art piece, but I could see where something like this and the components of where in the neighborhood you might be as you come and visit this space, and where that water level would be if you were in that space, in that neighborhood, and how that an art piece can convey this all over that property. But maybe there's something there that we should explore a little bit more on taking that idea and bringing it into that space.
We've got a lot of fantastic artists who would help you.
Yeah, we kind of dropped the ball on that, but I'd like to see how we could maybe explore that a little more and bring that together. That's what I have to say. Thanks.
I mean, I'm glad to hear you say that, because one of the goals of this project is to really think through the role of public art in these major infrastructure and urban design improvements, because we really believe that the artistic component can engage people and attract people and allow them to interact with these really complex challenges on a totally different level. And so that's one of the goals of this, is to really you know, engage people in these issues in new and different ways, and to have art kind of speak to, you know, our cultural and emotional connection to a lot of these issues. So thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. And just so people, maybe we need to figure out a way to get this information out to the public, but essentially there'll be a few public meetings to discuss the overall design, and Dana Brown Associates will be giving us, this is really heavily engaged in public outreach and public feedback. We'll end up with 2 overall designs that we will then choose and move forward to actually implement on the ground. So this is a huge project that we get to bring down to scale, bring it to the audience there, including school children. I'd love to see how we could maybe make that connection.
That's great. Well, let's be in touch about that.
Okay.
What about others? I know there are quite a few on the call who haven't jumped in yet. We'd love to hear from you.
Sarah, do you mind if I share my screen really fast
Sure.
to look at a potential site?
Please.
I'm just thinking, Hannah, John, I'm just thinking about this location. So I'm gonna zoom out so everyone sees where it is, and then I'll zoom back in. So this is the St. Anthony neighborhood. And then if you zoom in, this is Gatto Playground. The location is up here. So if you zoom in, it's Windsor, this location, it's a pretty wide neutral ground, not as wide as Prentice, but it's a really quiet spot. Kids already play basketball here. I'm just imagining like a sort of pipe sculpture extending the length as a kind of, and the reason I'm suggesting it as something to consider is because of its proximity to apartment complex, to Bastion, the veterans housing, to Beacon Light Cathedral, and to the neighborhood park. It's a bit of an entry, but it's quiet enough where I think if you have kids running around, it's not, like it's quiet enough that kids play basketball here, and not just during the pandemic, so.
I think the question of where it goes, for us, we've been trying to separate is where we took inspiration from, where it should go, or can it go somewhere else more appropriate to how people will interact with this thing. So I think that feels like a good suggestion here. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear from either Sly or Shanti or Aspen or Skinny or Elijah, since you all have been really researching these themes for a few months now. I'm really curious to hear your feedback about these proposals. Or Carl, you as well. I can also call you out. Anyone? All right. Guess they won't take me up on it.
I didn't hear the question. You went in and out.
Guinea, Sarah was asking if you had any thoughts, or any of the other yams had any thoughts about the proposal, the video that we just watched.
Do I have any thoughts on the video?
Yeah.
Let me think about it. Actually, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
I loved a lot of it. I was really fascinated by the idea of using the pipes as in the same way you think about tree roots. I think it was beautiful. Some of the visuals I saw were really nice. As far as where it should go, I wouldn't, but I did enjoy it. That was one of the things that stuck out for me.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, we are right at 5 o'clock. So I want to thank you all for joining us again for our second session of the Meet the Artists. And I want to remind you that we have 2 more events that are coming up. This Friday at noon, we'll have 3 artists Langston Alston, Rachel David, and Caitlin Waugh. And then next Tuesday evening, we will hear from Courtney Egan, Brendan Pomerangel, and Christine Ledoux. So we have 6 additional proposals coming up and would love for you all to join us. And then again, just by way of reminder, I'll put this link into the chat box. This link is where you will find all of the videos and survey forms where you can give individual feedback to each of the artists. If you want to rewatch the proposal videos or if new ideas and thoughts come up, please refer to that site and give the artists some feedback through those survey links. And then if you can, please get the word out to anyone that you think might be able to join us for the next 2 events. We'd love to hear from more residents, hear from more community members about what they would like to see through this public art. So thank you all so much again. Let's give a round of applause to the YAM students for wonderful work and upcoming graduation for those who are graduating. And thanks again to Hannah and John for jumping on again for this call.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.